So many people come out of high school and college that they're adult babies, basically, because the EQ has not been addressed. They have not developed or strengthened these muscles internally.
Light toxicity is a problem because there's always light. The brain isn't used to that. This is the first time in history that we've had light 24 hours a day, pretty much. Human beings weren't really designed to know everything that's going on around the planet. We're really more designed to what's happening in our little tribe, or maybe the tribe next door.
This is the Douglas Robbins Show.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. We're just going to kind of get a little simpler again today. Get back to the basics. And the basics are health, nutrition, the energy in which we're feeling in our bodies. Often, obviously, food affects our energy levels. Experience stress affects our energy levels. So today we're going to speak with Jonathan Glass, who is the founder and author of the Total Life Cleanse. He is a naturopathic doctor, master acupuncturist, Ayurvedic practitioner, energy healer, herbalist, and natural health educator. He has served on the faculty of the New England School of Acupuncture and the Dharma Institute of Yoga and Ayurveda. He has facilitated thousands through his Jivatma energy healing and total life cleanse programs. Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Douglas. Appreciate it.
That is a mouthful.
Yes.
Where would you say, just to start, where would you say people are struggling the most? Food, energies, obviously it's all interrelated, all interconnected, but what are the first things people can do to simplify and start feeling better? A lot of people are just on the run, maybe not eating so well, living off coffee and whatever else. What would you say people can do to slow things down, simplify, and get back into the basics and obviously taking better care of themselves?
Yeah. Well, I think you make a good point about getting back to basics. And in Ayurveda, which is a system medicine from India, they have a great word called dosha. And dosha, many people think it means body type, but what it really means is fault. And the idea is that we all have our own individual versions of how we go out of balance. So the idea is to get simple again, and we shouldn't feel bad about getting whacked out or out of balance or however we do that. But the missing link sometimes is just recognizing that and then doing some basic simple things. And that's why Ayurveda recommends doing a cleanse twice a year, ideally in the spring and the fall. But doing rewinding and go, okay, let me get back to basics. I've let the coffee get out of control, or the alcohol get, or the sugar, or whatever it may be. I'm not watching my diet anymore. I've been noticing I'm not feeling so well. My mental clarity's down. If I'm not exercising, I'm not doing yoga, I'm not breathing, whatever. So there's some very basic things. Wind back, get the junk food out, get some basic exercise or yoga at least 3 days a week. I'm a real fan of getting out on the ground and walking around barefoot for 5-10 minutes a day, at least. These are seemingly very, very simple, but really important. And another big one is take a break, do a cell phone cleanse, whether it's a few hours a day or a day a week or a few hours in a day in a week or something, because that's really like one of the biggest addictions of our modern time. And I think all of those things we can reel back on, like you said, simplify, come back to basics, and coming back to basics makes us feel more human.
It's remarkable that it does, and we forget because it just becomes this pattern in our lives of the phone, that instant gratification, looking something up, and just kind of the haphazardness of it all. Yeah. And I've been reading a bit about this, and the central nervous system is just not designed for this type of constant input, over stimulation, if you will, and it starts affecting us very sincerely, very seriously. Yep. It becomes overwhelming, right? It overwhelms our brain. You're watching a cat video, and then this horrible thing, and then this other thing, and there's also no real pattern to it. There's an algorithm feeding whatever, but it's overwhelming. And I read recently someone said, look, you're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to know everything.
I read the same thing
all over the world.
Yes, I saw that too. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's really fascinating to think because this creates more stress. The news is stressful, Facebook, social media, it's all stressful. And yes, when we do just get away from it,
Yeah.
put it away, leave the phone when you're going for a walk, go into the woods, touch the trees.
Yeah.
I even read like that trees, and when you're out in the woods, trees give off some sort of,
Negative ions.
what is it?
Negative ions.
So it's like a chemistry that
Yeah.
affects us, and it's like and I don't know. You said negative ions, but I'd heard that there was an actual chemistry to it that that's why people go to the woods. You feel
Yeah.
rejuvenated quite often, and it's so important. Also, with stepping on the ground with your bare feet
Yep.
is another thing that nutrition
Yeah.
or chemistry,
Yeah.
whatever happens. We've gotten very detached, right? Very disconnected from this pure, simpler state. And when we do, when I go away and put the phone down for a week or whatever, I feel so much more human again.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. It gets out of, we don't even realize that it's over
Yeah.
impacting our energy significantly. Yeah.
So, what would you say, since you're an energy healer, we're speaking on that. What would you say? Does it deplete the energy? What does it do exactly to us energetically when we're on social media for too much of the day or
Right.
the news or whatever?
Yeah. First, it I would say it unknowingly disturbs the energy. In Ayurveda, I love Ayurveda because the way they speak about the human being, we're divine and we're perfect, but yet we get deranged. That's how it's kind of
Yes.
described. Our energy gets deranged, and these, like you mentioned, overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic is the go mode, which is on all the time. It's parasympathetic is the slow mode. That's like the brake on the car. The gasoline is the go mode. And when the nervous system is always on go, that depletes us of energy. It depletes us of, creates oxidation in the body, creates stress. It impacts the digestion. And we're not designed really as human beings to be on go mode all the time. When we're eating, we're supposed to be more in slow mode. When we make love, we're supposed to be in slow mode. When we are hanging out with a good friend and having a talk, that's slower mode. But the wireless technology automatically puts us into the go mode. It stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which then has so many biochemical reactions in the body. So we're not, and like you said, that that idea that human beings weren't really designed to know everything that's going on around the planet. We're really more designed to what's happening in our little tribe, or maybe the tribe next door. But in today's world, we have light pollution. We can be on our phone 24 hours a day. We can be on our phone and feel like we're wide awake at 2 in the morning, conversing with people or watching videos or whatever. So we're exposed to this blue light, which is another thing. That's another form of a toxin, which actually shuts off melatonin, stimulates oxidation. That's why wireless technology creates a tremendous amount of free radicals in the body and uses up glutathione, which is a very powerful antioxidant that your body makes. It uses up our stores of antioxidants. So we're constantly putting ourselves, we're in these stress modes. And then, of course, we have political stress, we have environmental, we have so many different stressors. Um, I've just seen people more stressed in the last 8 years, 10 years than perhaps
Yeah.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's triggering, the cortisol, the stress
Yes.
hormone. It's
Yeah.
triggering us to be in constant fight, flight, or freeze, the
Exactly.
survival mode of the
Yeah.
sympathetic nervous. Really bad. I don't know. These are serious unintended consequences of the modern day and age. So that's why we do need to get back to the basics. So what would you say? You had mentioned a little bit, like, what about eating? What can people do, or supplements that should be taking that are more holistic than the stuff that typical of the big chemistry or the pharmaceutical companies own
Right.
and push? So what can
Right.
people be doing in general, eating wise, supplements to really steady their body? And obviously
Yeah.
we all need to get away from the social media and maybe put that, okay, half hour a day, hour a day.
Yeah, okay,
There's a
so
lot of noise. It's a lot of noise.
a lot of noise, yeah. And Ayurveda, which is again a system of medicine from India, very connected to the yoga system, but it's a brilliant system that actually included surgery. It was one of the first systems on the planet that included surgery. So it's not devoid of some of the Western medicine protocols, but it recognizes that digestion or ama or toxin is the cause of all disease, and our inability to process, whether it's a food or a chemical or a toxin or an emotion or a sensory input. In Ayurveda, that's all seen as something we need to digest. So it's all about digestion: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual digestion. So the idea is to, from time to time, minimize the stress that we're putting on the body. That would be an example, would be really simplifying the diet, whether it's 1 day a week or for a period of time, 8 days, or some cases we bring through people through programs for 28 days, and they come to a new bottom line and really figure out what foods work for them. The biggies are going to be modern wheat, modern dairy, sugar, alcohol, too much coffee or caffeine. So those are the biggies. There's other ones too. But when we minimize some of those foods, I often lump it in. It's not true for everybody, but wheat, dairy, sugar. If you pull those out of the diet and just go plant-based, whole food, doesn't mean, whether you're vegetarian or not, but more veggies, more plants. Another one would be eating healthy oils, avoiding the seed oil like safflower, sunflower, canola. Those are highly, highly, highly oxidizing. But getting back to good old, real high quality olive oil, avocado oil, or ghee, or coconut oil. These are all oils that work well in the body. Reeling things back in, simplifying, getting rid of the junk is a huge thing. It's a huge thing dietarily. And then, like we've been talking about, minimizing screen time. Back in the day when we started the cleanse, we would say, okay, we're doing a media fast, but that included just television and newspapers. It's so different now. Now we can be hooked up to it 24 hours a day. So it really impacts the nervous system. And like you mentioned also, is that how more human and normal and grounded we can feel just by giving it up for a few hours, or maybe better, a couple days. Yeah. And
Yeah,
toxins are huge. Toxins are huge these days too, due
yeah.
to the chemicals, herbicides, pesticides. And then we have I consider light toxicity as a problem because there's always light. The brain isn't used to that. This is the first time in history that we've had light 24 hours a day, pretty much. And then also all the information overload is a lot to take in too. So it's not that we're saying don't know what's going on in the world, because that's, for the most of us, that's not reality. But understanding that there's a certain point where it becomes a toxin for us, and then that becomes damaging over time.
These toxins are a modern issue, right? They didn't
Yep.
exist obviously when Ayurvedic was developed thousands of years ago. So
Right.
how we're all exposed to heavy metals, to plastics. I had a woman on the show a few weeks ago talking about microplastics are in everything. You get
Right.
a to-go cup, even though it's made of cardboard, the inside of it is lined with plastic, which is an oil-based material. So what can people do? Does Ayurvedic address or naturopathic address like these sort of modern challenges we have? This is where so much disease comes from. It's just part of our systems, and it goes into our system, and everywhere you go you get something, it's in plastic. It's 5 minutes, oh, it's in plastic, or at the store it's in plastic. So what can you do, or what can we do Ayurvedic wise or naturopathic to offset that a bit? We're not going to be able to beat it because it's everywhere, but what can we do to offset that? And what I'm really getting at is like, are there things that are specifically
Things, yeah.
designed to cleanse toxins and plastics?
Yep. Plastic, some of these things are new, and of course in Ayurveda they never identified, oh, this herb helps with plastic,
Hmm.
but anything that really supports liver detoxification has been around for a long time. That helps the body make glutathione is very important. Glutathione is the master antioxidant that the liver makes to clean itself, regulate the immune system, help the oxygen molecule attach to the hemoglobin, which is what carries oxygen. Without glutathione, it's not possible. And we use up, and glutathione also minimizes the negative impact of oxidation from wireless technology, which is pretty huge. So there's a couple things, and I use both. I like herbs that support the liver. We have things like dandelion, milk thistle, turmeric, schisandra. These are all really good liver support herbs. Eating a good amount of greens and beets all support the liver. You also want things that support the gallbladder, because the gallbladder, the bile is is secreted by the liver, is what carries the toxins out of the liver through the gallbladder and eliminated from the body. So that's really important. I use a couple products in my practice, my two favorite products. One of them is called NutraSwish. It's a sublingual water-based glutathione product that it is actually more effective than getting injections of glutathione. And it really helps with chemical heavy metal removal, oxidation from wireless technology, even plastics. It is thought to be helpful for. So glutathione, it's called NutraSwish, very good product. There's another product that I've been using lately called glucoferrin, which is an amazing product that also helps your body make glutathione. It helps regulate blood sugar, and it also helps our body to utilize iron. And iron is super important because it's meant to be in the red blood cell, and that's meant to carry oxygen. But a lot of people have too much stored iron in their body. A lot of people are getting more iron in a year than they're meant to get in a whole lifetime. And we've been supplementing with iron. Oh, my iron's low. But guess what? A lot of times, low iron in the blood doesn't mean you need to take iron. What it means is you probably have stored iron, toxic levels of iron, stored in your organs, and that needs to be taken out and utilized rather than storing in the organs. So sometimes people are taking iron pills. My iron levels are low. I need to take more iron. But what's happening is we're storing it, and iron is very, very oxidizing. It's like if you put an iron nail outside in the rain, it immediately becomes rusty. So we're actually causing a lot of problems for ourselves with misuse of taking iron in our lives. So iron is a huge toxin actually these days. Yes,
I
it's
don't.
very important.
What's that?
Those two products are very, very important in the modern day.
I don't recall the number of deaths. What out of the top killers, but misdiagnostic and
It's huge, yeah.
misprescription. Yeah,
Yep.
is one of the top killers of
Yes.
patients, and that's obviously a huge problem. But so, Jonathan, like emotions, right? Let's get into emotions for a moment,
Sure.
because emotions, I think it's called samskara or samskara in
Samskar,
the
yep.
Indian
Yep.
in the
Yes.
Indian tradition, and that is sort of a stuck emotion or a thorn, if
Right.
you will, in a
Yep.
way. Obviously, those affect our energies; they affect our personality. So, are there treatments in Ayurvedic or to address that, and or people often emotionally eat as well? You feel crappy in one area, you eat whatever. Are there a way that people can heal those places?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just had a patient today, in fact, who has a sugar thing, and she was all upset with herself because she went on a sugar binge, and it was all about the sugar. But when we talked about it further, it was really because it was another area in her life that was really stressing her out. And when she was able to see the connection, then she started forgiving herself about the sugar thing. It was all about, oh, I became addictive again. I'm so bad, or whatever. But it was really, she had to face another issue, which was anxiety provoking. So Ayurveda says that the cause of emotional imbalances are undigested experiences. So everything again is digested. It's a graphic thing would be, okay, a child is hit by their parent a bunch of times growing up. So that causes what's called a samskara, or an emotional impression. It's almost like a fingerprint in our emotional body that gets stuck there. And unless at some point in that person's life they're able to look at it and quote digest it and change it from a trauma that they're avoiding, or a trauma that's stored in the tissues, to a trauma that they've looked at, had their feelings about it, digested or processed it, and let it go. It'll never be a good memory if they think about it hard enough, but it's gone from a charged emotional thing to a neutral thing. Never a happy memory, but it won't trigger people. In modern days, we talk a lot about getting triggered and emotional trauma. So yes, Ayurveda, definitely there's Ayurvedic psychology, and a lot of that is going into their particular trauma, and there's different ways of doing that. And there's some great modern technologies that the same principle of how do I digest this issue. Sometimes just talking to a friend can help you digest something. If you have something going on, it may not be that severe. If something's really deep and really covered over, or there's a lot of shame around it or something, then yes, generally people will need some kind of support to look at it, feel it, and release it. And usually when that process happens, then we've digested it and we learn something from it. We learn something about maybe beliefs that we took on about life, about ourselves, or we just understand something that we never did before. So just like when we digest food, the body then, quote, understands the nutrients and uses them. With indigestion, even if it's the healthiest piece of broccoli on the planet, if there's indigestion, or if we're eating in a really stressed state of mind, the body can't utilize it or understand that piece of broccoli and make it into blood and bones and muscle and things like that. So same thing happens with the emotional. So I like to do energy healing. I like to do some acupuncture, because the meridians, which are related to the organs, and each organ holds emotion. For example, the liver holds anger, also holds creativity and hope and excitement, things like that. But it holds repressed anger and frustration. And just by treating the body and making space for that person, if they need to express themselves with a couple acupuncture points in, or holding those points, oftentimes they can much more effectively or completely release those energies and traumas, whether it's something they're frustrated in the moment or something that they've been holding on to for a long time. But it's very healthy to work those things out.
This is so fascinating to me. I've done acupuncture before, but the body holds the subconscious, right? It holds memories. It's the storage for experience. We can only hold so much in our conscious mind.
Right.
We have to retrieve. Those are the things that, what is that feeling I have? It's in the subconscious. And people often say, oh, I feel it in my gut, or I feel it in my chest, because that's where it is.
Right.
That's where it's stuck. Regarding Ayurveda, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because you hear the term, and I don't think most people really know what it means, and I certainly did not. It seems that it's more of an entire system, not just food related or nutrition. It seems like it's an entire system. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. Ayurveda, Veda means knowledge, Ayur means life. So it's really a system of medicine about life. So yeah, most people think of it as, what are the right foods I should eat for my body type? Maybe what are the right types of exercise I should do for my body type? So it's very centered around that. But it's a huge system. There's nutrition, there's herbology, there's gemology, there's the use of mantras, there's psychology. Like I said, Ayurveda was the first known system to include surgery. So even the use of surgery, it included acupuncture. Most people think acupuncture is just coming from China. It actually originated in Ayurveda. So it's a very comprehensive system. What's unique about it in terms of its medicinal aspect is that it's very aligned with the yoga system, and the yoga system is, yoga means to connect. So it's about connecting the body, mind, and the soul, or the spirit, and we're a whole person. So Ayurveda is, you could say, sensitive to that reality, where Western medicine typically is not, is not aware of that connection. It doesn't really honor the fact that you're a spiritual being in a human body. It's very chemical oriented, and it also tends to treat people downstream. It tends to like to treat symptoms rather than go to the cause. So in Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, it's nothing wrong with treating symptoms. If someone's really suffering, then sure, let's reduce the symptoms. But the real thing is to try to get upstream, as we say, toward where the origin of the problem began. And Ayurveda is very interested in that.
Yeah, that's where you heal it, right? You don't
That's where
heal
you heal
it
it.
by
Exactly.
yeah.
You don't heal it by manipulating. Say a river is dirty. Say I was just in India, so I was up in the Himalayas and the Ganges was completely clear. At some point, when you go to Delhi, the water's no longer clean. So if you're simply going way down from Delhi, south of Delhi, and you're just trying to purify the water there, then you're just dealing with the symptoms. If you go to Delhi, clean up Delhi, then the water after Delhi is going to be nice and clear. So, you want to go
Yeah.
upstream and treat. Yeah.
Go to the source.
Go to the source. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like this is the challenge American society has, because it likes the easy, quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
It likes the instant gratification. It doesn't like dealing with hard stuff. So it's not addressing the deeper systemic issues or going to the root causes of things. It wants to gloss over the symptoms and address the Band-Aid, but nothing is being remedied. And in fact, it gets worse when you don't address it. If you have a wound on your leg, you're not going to just ignore it. And it's very strange that we've for years. I mean, we're changing a bit now as far as mental health and awareness, but it's so strange. Like, right, you would address the leg. You got a gash on your leg. You're not going to just walk around with a gash on your leg. Right. But my goodness, up until maybe the last decade or so, if you mentioned you're having some mental issues, or you're struggling with whatever, you'd often be a pariah or looked down upon or judged, or you're crazy or whatever it is. Back in the day with war, they were soldiers who were going through this were often looked down upon. Deal with it kind of thing, shell shock and all these PTSD, what developed into. But it was like you were the sick one, not the war part.
Right.
You were the one with the problem.
Right.
Not what war made you do. Question for it there, Jonathan, and I'm curious just because it's something I come back to often in the program, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. Ayurveda, India, this has been around for thousands of years. So educationally, so in our society, and I've addressed this on the show, we often address IQ, not EQ. And this is why I think so many people come out of high school and college that they're adult babies, basically. Because the EQ has not been addressed. They have not developed or strengthened these muscles internally. And that's why there's so many people who are stuck in those places. It makes sense. You haven't addressed it. You're now 30, 40, 50. Of course you're going to be stuck there, because this has not developed in parallel or in congruence with your mental state, your IQ.
Yep.
In India or in Ayurvedic or whatever, are you aware of developing the whole body? Because that's really what this system is about. Do they address the emotional state, the IQ, the physical, the spiritual?
Yeah. In classic Ayurveda, absolutely. India, I think, is rediscovering itself, because when they were taken over by the British, a lot of their culture was intentionally destroyed. In fact, a lot of the Ayurvedic texts were burned and destroyed by the British. Their whole culture. They were attempting to get rid of the whole Indian culture.
Yeah.
And so India, in one sense, had a very big identity crisis for a long time, because the roots were still there. There were still elements of Indian culture, big communistic emphasis came in, and then as a rebellion to England. And then there's a lot of conflict. They're trying to keep up with the world. So they're trying to do it a Western way and deny their Indian culture. I think the more now the West is appreciating some of the gifts of India with yoga and Ayurveda and things like that, then it's funny because a lot of I've noticed Indian people, they're like, wow, you're more Indian than I am. And but then they also appreciate it. One of my teachers used to call his followers in India my dancing white elephants, because they would, the Indian people would see them and go, wow, these guys are really into it. This is my culture. But having said that, yes. So the point is that, yes, for example, there's a word in Ayurveda, dharma. Dharma means you're the essence of who you are. So in a traditional Indian family back in the day, when a baby is born, there are a couple things happen. One is, for the first 5 years, typically the baby generally is not punished or chastised ever, because the parents are simply loving that child
Mm.
to the nth degree and observing that child according to their nature. Who is
Mm.
this kid? They also would bring in Vedic astrology, which can be very, very exact and quite amazing for helping to identify the nature of the child. So both through observation, through a really good astrologer, then they start honoring and respecting, okay, this child's nature is like this. Their interests will be like this as opposed to like that. They may be a physical laborer. That might be what they're designed to do, what they like to do. They may not be an intellectual. They may not study like the Brahmins, studying scripture all day long, or they may not be a
Mhm.
great businessman, or they may be a good businessman. So they acknowledge the nature of the child. It's not about trying to fit the child into a mold, but more observing and then fanning that child's natural gifts. So that's a big part of trauma, I think, for kids, is being forced into a certain kind of way of having to be. Then, of course, there's other traumas, whether it's abuse and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's very much
Yeah.
part of the Ayurvedic system, is to acknowledge the emotional body and acknowledge the nature of a person according to their individual nature.
Well, that's really fascinating because that's what the kid needs. Kids
Right.
are looking for witness and approval. And if you reject them, no, be quiet, no, be like this over here, right? The kid's going to feel rejected, disconnected, and
Right.
alone. And I think this is perhaps, and I'm just speculating, so many Americans feel alone because we're always trying to fit that kind of round square peg into the round hole. And how are you going to get what you want if who you are is not being accepted?
Right.
But that's really interesting, and I'm curious how getting that sort of more nurturing, not to see people are not nurtured here or whatever, but as a culture, it's not a nurturing culture
Right.
in that regard. So that would be very interesting to have that more of a design
Right.
than trying to fit the kid into, okay, this is what you have to know to be in the school, and you have to want these external things, and so that's really, it sounds very nurturing for a child.
Yeah, it's very, and then they don't get shamed prematurely. Then at some point, it's not that all of a sudden the idea is you start chastising your kids, but once the
They've
kid
been
is
waiting
developed,
waiting for 5 years,
just
kid.
waiting for this. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's okay. Now I understand your nature as my son or as my daughter. I have a
Yeah,
better sense of who you are. Now I can
yeah.
help in that cultivation process.
That's
And
really
that
interesting.
idea of identity is very important for in
Right,
Ayurveda, of what are my gifts? What's my
right.
nature? And that takes away a tremendous amount of self-criticism and shame and
Mm.
confusion, because if we know we're one way and everyone is telling us you should be that way, it can be very painful for a child.
Absolutely. That's really fascinating because you are accepted as an individual
Right.
in your unique essence. So that's really
Exactly.
quite beautiful. And that kind of goes back to what we were starting with, is getting back to basics and reconnecting to these parts of ourselves, with the simple, with nature, with that part of ourselves disconnected from the noise of social media and the phone and all that.
Yeah. Totally.
So tell me about your Total Life Cleanse book and program.
Sure, yeah. So we've been doing it about, 26 years now. I know that because my son's 28, and that's when we started it back then. So it initially was for what we used to call our difficult patients. Like, why are these people not getting better? We're doing acupuncture, we're doing chiropractic, we're doing what we think all the right stuff, and they keep coming back every week. Yeah, it was a great treatment, but I'm the same. So a friend of mine and I decided, we just knew, we had studied Ayurveda to some degree at the time, and we realized, let's just bring it back to basics, kind of like what we're talking about. Let's clean up the diet. Let's give them some good herbs to help detox. Let's have people go through some healthy daily lifestyle practices, simple, effective, not too time consuming. Just let's get human again for a little while. Let's focus on being human and healthy for a period of time. And our first program was 5 weeks, and we were literally blown away by how many of our difficult patients then became quite good patients, some cases excellent patients, because they were able to make a quantum shift, and they got to experience what it's like when I don't drink 12 cups of coffee a day, what it's like when I'm not eating junk food, I'm not going to eating fast food, or, and not only that, we had people that their eyesight improved, stuff, aches and pains disappeared. Of course, weight loss and that stuff like that, digestive improvements. So we noticed that this wisdom of Ayurveda, this wisdom of just bringing it all back to common sense, and stop pretending that what we put in our body doesn't matter. Stop pretending that what we put in our mind doesn't matter. Like, when we name those things, people go, it's true.
Yeah, and we all are on our journey, and we're all looking, you mentioned the word tools, and we all need the right tools for mental health, for eating, for emotional health. We all are seeking tools to better our lives. So Jonathan Glass, has been such a pleasure, but stay tuned. I want to talk to you after the show, okay? Thank you, sir.
This is the Douglas Robbins Show.